Have you ever sat at your kitchen table, hands wrapped around a warm mug of tea, and thought, if I shared how I really feel, would it help, or would it just worry them? If that thought has crossed your mind, you're in good company. Because there's a quiet wisdom that often blossoms after 65, an understanding that not every truth needs to be said out loud. This isn't about hiding pain or pretending things are fine when they're not. It's about choosing peace over panic, serenity over explanation. There comes a time when we realize that some truths are ours to carry, not because they're shameful, but because sharing them might do more harm than good. Let's talk about the first of those truths. 1. The small health battles we don't talk about. Your back aches in the morning. Your knees don't trust stairs like they used to. And some nights, you lie awake long after midnight, thinking about everything and nothing at once. But instead of picking up the phone and telling your son or daughter, you stretch, breathe, maybe whisper a quiet, ouch, and carry on. Why? Because you know what happens next. The concern. The overcorrection. The well-meant advice that turns into unwanted control. Maybe you should stop driving. Are you sure you should live alone? That's not what you want. You want dignity, not dependence. Just like Catherine, 83 and widowed, who shared, watching what happened with Gene Hackman's family made me realize I need not one, but 2 backups for all my accounts and passwords. It's never too late to get organized. She didn't broadcast her concerns, she acted. Quietly. Intelligently. Independently. That's the kind of silent strength that defines this stage of life. 2. The loneliness we learn to sit with. There's a unique kind of silence that fills the house after the kids have left and the grandkids have grown. It's not always painful, sometimes it's peaceful. But sometimes it echoes a little too loudly. You walk from room to room, not looking for anything in particular. You forget why you came in. No one's called today. And you wonder if anyone noticed. You could speak up. But you don't. Not because you're ashamed, but because you know that emotions pass. You've learned with time that sometimes the best comfort doesn't come from others. It comes from within. Anna, 66, put it beautifully. I've always kept my personal life private, only sharing what people need to know. This video reinforced that instinct. Thank you. There's power in restraint. In sitting with your emotions instead of letting them spill. And that restraint isn't repression, it's refinement. It's maturity. 3. The quiet regrets we don't rehash. By the time you reach your late 60s or 70s, you've made peace with the fact that not every chapter in your life story was perfect. There are people you didn't call back. Trips you didn't take. Dreams that drifted. But telling your family about every single regret? It rarely brings peace. In fact, it can sometimes burden them with guilt, like they're part of the reason you missed out. Instead, you frame it differently. You say, I've learned so much from the journey, rather than, I wish I had done more. Because as much as you wish you could go back, you'd rather look forward. And that mindset is a gift to everyone around you. Rebecca shared it simply. Thank you for sharing this wisdom. It's helping me step into the next stage of life with more clarity and confidence. You see, our stories don't always need to be perfect to inspire. They just need to be honest and full of grace. In the next part, we'll continue this journey of unspoken truths. We'll look at why so many seniors stay quiet about their fears, their family dynamics, and their reflections on mortality, not from fear, but from love. But before we go there, I'd love to know, have you ever chosen silence, not because you were afraid, but because you knew it was the wiser path? Feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice might just be the encouragement someone else needs today. There's a silence that comes not from loneliness, but from love. It's the quiet decision not to say something because you know the words might stir worry instead of offering comfort. This kind of silence is chosen, not imposed, and it's one of the deepest forms of care. Let's continue exploring the truths many seniors hold close, not out of secrecy, but from a place of strength and self-respect. 4. We don't always feel as safe or as steady as we seem. You walk through the grocery store and feel a slight wobble in your step. You pause a moment longer before stepping off the curb. Or maybe you've forgotten where you parked for the second time this week. You smile through it. You make a joke. But you don't say anything. Why? Because experience has taught you this. Once you admit you're not steady, people begin to overcompensate. Your independence starts slipping through your fingers, one well-meaning suggestion at a time. You don't want to be managed, you want to be trusted. Like Grace, whose mother made one of her daughters power of attorney. At first, it stung that she was the only one fully informed. But over time, I realized it was Mom's choice. We all play different roles in her care, and in the end, it's about making her last years as good as they can be. That's the quiet dignity many seniors choose, being strategic about what's shared and with whom. It's not about hiding, it's about navigating your final decades on your own terms. Many older adults create systems that help them function with confidence, sticky notes on the fridge, medication boxes sorted weekly, names written in large letters. These aren't signs of failure, they're signs of resilience. Of adapting with grace instead of surrendering control. 5. Sometimes, we feel left behind, and we stay silent anyway. This one cuts a little deeper. There's a strange ache in realizing you're no longer at the center of the family orbit. Your children talk about work trips, renovation projects, and new experiences you're not a part of. The grandkids come over but barely look up from their phones. And even though the house is full, you feel invisible. But you don't say anything. Because you love them. And love, as you've learned, doesn't always demand attention. It lets go. Mike put it bluntly, but truthfully. My son once asked why I wasted money playing bingo instead of saving for my grandson. I've learned that giving endlessly doesn't earn love. My will is sorted. Visit if you wish or don't. I'm staying put. It's the reality many come to terms with. Your value doesn't diminish with age, even if your presence is overlooked. And sometimes, the choice to stay silent is not because you don't care, but because you've grown past needing constant validation. This is perhaps one of the most misunderstood parts of aging, how quiet the pain of feeling forgotten can be. But even in that pain, there is clarity. You begin to find joy in simpler things. A warm bath. A bird outside the window. A perfectly brewed cup of tea. And in those moments you remind yourself, I am still here. I am still whole. Even if they don't see it, I do. 6. We think about mortality more than we say. It doesn't come from a place of fear. It's just there. You notice the clock ticking in ways you didn't before. You find yourself watching reruns you've already seen, but they bring a comfort that feels like home. And at night, when everything is still, your mind drifts. How much time do I have left? Did I say everything I wanted to say? Will they remember me for who I really was? But you don't speak it aloud, because saying it makes it too real for your children. They might panic. Tiptoe around you. Start treating you like you're already halfway gone. And that, more than anything, would break your heart. So you smile. You water your plants. You pay your bills. You go on your walks. And in the silence of your mind, you make peace with the mystery of it all. Like Lori, who said, My mom managed everything herself until she was 90. She worried about outliving her savings until the end. I always kept her included and respected her independence. That kind of respect? It matters. It honors the courage it takes to live gracefully in the face of the unknown. As we approach the final part of this journey, there's one last truth we need to talk about, perhaps the most transformative one of all. It's the reason so many seniors stop trying to explain themselves. Why they no longer demand to be understood. Why they finally feel free. 7. We stop needing to be understood, and that's when we find peace. There's a turning point that comes quietly, like sunrise through a window. One day, you just stop trying to be understood. You stop explaining why you feel a certain way. You stop hoping they'll ask deeper questions. You stop wishing someone would say, "I finally get it." Because you realize, it's okay if they don't. That moment isn't sadness. It's liberation. You no longer carry the weight of making others see the world through your eyes. You've lived enough, loved enough, and lost enough to know this. Not everyone will understand your choices, your values, your silences, and they don't need to. You start choosing presence over persuasion. You start letting others be who they are, even if they miss the point sometimes. And in doing so, you reclaim a power that can only come with age, the power of inner clarity. Sarah shared something powerful. "My children only saw me as free childcare and an ATM. When I stopped giving handouts, they cut me off. That was 7 years ago, and honestly, they've been the most peaceful years of my life." What Sarah found was the kind of peace that arrives when you let go, not out of bitterness, but from boundaries rooted in self-respect. The wisdom we've gathered. So let's take a moment to reflect on what we've uncovered across these unspoken truths. You don't need to share every ache or fear to be strong. You don't need to explain your regrets to be at peace with them. You don't need to speak your loneliness to overcome it. You don't need to fear being overlooked. Your presence is felt more deeply than you know. And you certainly don't need constant validation to know your life has mattered. These aren't secrets. They're sacred truths. And you carry them not because you have to, but because you choose to. With grace. With depth. With quiet dignity. Let's talk about it. Now I want to hear from you. Have you experienced this quiet shift? Have you ever held something back, not out of fear, but out of wisdom? Drop your story in the comments. Whether it's a sentence, a paragraph, or just a nod to say, "Yes, me too," your voice matters. It reminds others they're not alone. And if you saw yourself in these words, if they touched a part of your soul that rarely gets spoken to, I invite you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs it. Because in this little online corner of the world, we're building something special, a space where aging isn't a fading light, but a brilliant glow. Where being quiet doesn't mean being invisible. It means being rooted. Final thoughts. To anyone over 65 quietly navigating their days with a mix of strength and softness. You are not forgotten. You are not fragile. You are not less. You are a lighthouse, steady, grounded, and full of silent wisdom. So today, light a candle for yourself. Write a love note to the person you've become. Sip your tea with pride. And remember, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You've already earned your place in this world, and it's a beautiful one. From my heart to yours, thank you for walking this journey with me. Until next time, take care of your peace, guard your light, and honor your voice. You've still got stories left to tell. And we'll be right here, ready to listen.